hate it when I'm trying to buy organic vegetables and when I get home, they're just regular donuts. Alan here from Mason-Dixon, and just a couple quick follow-ups. Two follow-ups from the Altoona show. Actually forgot that I picked up this magazine here. This is the Cowcatcher magazine. I know I've seen these around before, but I don't subscribe to it at all. Apparently you can pick them up at shows. The subscription is 6 issues for $21.95 or 12 issues for $41.95. So seems a little pricey, but I think train show vendors and clubs that are going to shows or having their own layouts set up and stuff like that can get them as promotional items. So I might try and look into that and try and get them for Timonium, which is coming up in October. It's the end of October. The Timonium show is October 25th and 26th. The 25th, there's going to be a YouTube meet and greet at, he just told me yesterday and I can't remember the time. It's either 11, 11:30 or 12, but it's by the food court near the door going into where the layouts are. So that's a YouTube meet and greet. I will be there for that. And hopefully I'll maybe find another Cowcatcher magazine. I don't know. I told you about this one, I think, last time, so I don't need to go over that one again. One of the things I did in Altoona on Friday was I went over to Todd Treaster's and I ran his N-scale layout, which if you've never been to Todd's, it's definitely worth the visit. It should be on your list because Todd's has an impressive collection of N-scale rolling stock and locomotives. I think he has every single piece of micro trains ever created, or at least it seems that way. So on top of an awesome layout that is well scenic with a huge yard running very long N-scale trains, there's also just this museum of cars and locomotives and display cases. I did shoot some video when I was there. I met a lot of people when I was there. I actually got to run a train when I was there, so I did ops. I would call that ops. I ran a train. I was an operator or the engineer, or just, I had a throttle in my hand. The unique thing about Todd's layout is it's all DC. So it requires a very unique skill to get the switches lined up so you can take your throttle and operate your train throughout the layout. It's not wireless, so you did have to keep moving around with your throttle and find a port to plug into. But nonetheless, look for that video coming up soon, probably in the next 30 minutes to 30 years. Somewhere in that time frame. Look for it. No promises. Another thing that happened, the wife and daughter were running over to Hobby Lobby, and sometimes I'll just say, hey, here's 20 bucks, find something and bring it back. So I don't really give them criteria. Sometimes I'll say get trees or get something. So I just want to show a few of the things that they got. So first got this little box of trees. And these are good for any scale, actually. So these will work HO, N. I think it even says HO on the back anyway, but it can be N scale. They're just larger N scale trees, that's all. It's kind of a fall colors too, so really cool. Along the tree line, I have these trees already. You might have seen them on the other layout. Might flip the camera around, you'll see the back side of the city here. But I have some of them over there. Could always use trees. But the key is get them out of the package and use them. Since I didn't tell them a scale, I kind of got surprised with these. These are probably HO scale deer. So I'll have to save them for another project. They won't work on the T-track stuff and the N scale stuff, but there's some little deer. And then the last thing was a pack of hay bales. And I'm looking at these and looking at the scale, and these are pretty big scale. These are actually, wake up camera. Let's turn that off for a second. These are actually O scale. So I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do with these. I might need to cut them down or just use them for a diorama or a someday project. So we'll see. But they're pretty cool. Little hay bales. So the other thing that I need to do is I need to really spend some time down here to keep moving on these T-tracks. I look around and I see some other people doing their T-tracks, and I seem to be just skipping it. I was pretty busy this weekend, so I wasn't available to mess around too much with the T-track, but that's no excuse. We're wrapping up September here, so I really want to spend and try and do an hour a day. No, that's ridiculous. I don't really have an hour a day, but there's going to be an hour a day. I probably won't get it all on video. And I'm terrible at, there's some, I see the benefits of doing live streams because you don't do any editing. You're just literally sitting down and doing something, and that's your video. So there's a lot of benefit in that. So I'm probably won't do a lot of post-production on these if I do a lot of videos. But at least I'm doing something. And maybe then I'll actually get the basement done at some point, because I'm constantly doing something and I'm down here in the middle of all this stuff going, why don't I have a ceiling? At least it's insulated, but it doesn't help. The basement still gets pretty cold. These walls are insulated now, and it does help, but I'm going to have to run some heaters down here. I do have some extra heaters that I picked up end of last year, so I should be able to keep it pretty warm. And I think the warmer I can keep it down here for the winter, the more work I'll actually be more inclined to do. So anyway, what else is coming up? In October, coming up is the MER convention in Philadelphia. The Philadelphia region NMRA convention is in the area. So that's on I think it's Friday the 17th. It might start the day before. It's up in the King of Prussia area, which is where the show is. I think you can still get tickets, but I'm not sure. But Friday is there's clinics and there's some operations. I'm going to be going to 2 operations, and of course, I don't have the sheet in front of me, so I don't know which ones I'm going to. I just know one is at 1 o'clock and the other is at 7 o'clock at night, 7 to 10. So it's going to be a long day, but it's going to be really fun and get to do some ops on some layouts that I've never done operations on. So looking forward to that. Saturday is clinics all day at the convention center. And then Sunday, they have an extensive list of open houses that are open just for the convention folks. These are houses or layouts that are open just for model railroaders. So it's not, I want to try and get to ones that I've not been to for the November open houses, because those are open for the public. And some people only want to cater to model railroaders. They just want to be that, they don't trust the public to come in and not break something. Although they haven't seen me at a model railroad open house. So you probably might want to reconsider that, but I'll try and be very considerate and careful. But I still haven't picked out which ones I'm going to. There's too many to visit them all. There's probably 75 or 100, I bet. It's a huge list. There's just no way to cover them. You don't have enough time in the day to get them in one day. So I'm going to try and pick ones that I haven't been to and go see them. And then, of course, I mentioned earlier the Timonium show. Great scale model railroad something. GSMTS. And that's at the Timonium Fairgrounds. And that's the end of October, last week in October before Halloween. So looking forward to that too. All right, so now I'm going to figure out something to do here. Of course, I do have a list in front of me. That's my T-Track purchasing list. Okay, so oh, yeah, I'm too sick to work now. Okay, so both the brewery, the yard, and the city need the backdrop done. And let's just talk about the backdrop for something simple to do here for a minute, because T-Track backdrops aren't a requirement, and depending on the show that you're at or who you're operating with, they may not want backdrops. If you're with a club, the club will determine how tall the backdrop is going to be. That's a tough word to say. I don't think any of the T-Track modules that you buy, the kits to make the bases, I don't think any of them include a backdrop. So there's different methodologies and ideas for making a backdrop. And you can be creative with this. The club will dictate how tall it is. So most of them are about 12 inches tall. So that's what I'm going to use. What I'm also going to do with these backdrops is I'm going to make them rigid. And I have one here. Let me grab it. And you might have seen something over there that I'll get to in just a minute. But I use plywood with the MDF glued onto the plywood. So this is where the backdrop will be. This piece down here will be screwed to the module, so you won't see it. And then the idea is, because this is so thick, this is very sturdy. This won't warp now because it's laminated to this plywood. I painted the back just so if you're looking at it from the back, you're not going to see bare wood. But because this is so thick, oh, it's 7 o'clock. All right, because this is so thick, I'll also be able to use it for mounting the modules and nesting them together. So you'll have one module when I'm packing it up. One module will be here, and then the other module will be upside down, and they'll both link together to make this little box that'll be much easier to package and move around with. So one of my theories for doing backdrops is to learn how to paint. So if you look on my easel here, probably looks pretty good from this angle, but I'll tell you, it's not that great. I did basically use some Bob Ross techniques here. I even went so far as to go down the Bob Ross train, and I actually got the Bob Ross cleaning bucket, because that's how crazy I am. Wasn't that expensive. I think I got some other tools too that are Bob Ross inspired, like a palette knife, and the couple of the paints he always uses. These aren't the actual paints that he uses, but some of the colors that he uses. All I wanted to do is the sky. I wasn't worried about the bottom, because what happens in a T-Track module is the T-Track is usually down on a table. It's usually on a folding table, and you're standing. So it's very low. So where's the horizon when you're looking at that. Horizon's always at your eye level. So technically speaking, you would never see a horizon on a T-Track module, right? And I don't always agree with that either. So what I'd like to do is make this was trying to do a water scene here with like water coming up to the foreground, and then a horizon back here, clouds in the sky. Most of my scenes, that's all I need is just that piece in the top, a couple inches in the top, sky, get the picture, and all this can be built up trees or buildings or other scenery stuff to make this fill in. And there might be stuff in front of it, so you won't really see the backdrop as much. But anyway, this is like attempt 4. So when I get to attempt 400, then I'll be able to put it on the T-Track piece, and I'll be like an expert. I need to get cracking. All right, so that's something. All right, so that's one thing. So all 3 modules need their backdrops done. So we'll go over the city module here, and actually I'll show you the city module while I'm talking about it. So this is the back of the city modules. It's 2 corners and a single straight module. So you're looking at the back, and of course, not much has changed since the last time you've seen this. But the things that need to be done is the crossing, which will be on that leftmost module. The roads, which is most of the way done, but I'd like to get more details on the roads, like lines and weathering and stuff like that. The sidewalks I just need to get them cut and put in place. A little bit more grass, and possibly do ballast and weathering on the tracks. So that's the city module. And then for the brewery and the yard, they're both very similar. The brewery and the yard are quad modules. So technically a quad module doesn't exist. And there's various reasons why. One is nominal lumber doesn't come in the right size. So unless you are willing to cut down a 4 by 8 foot piece of plywood to make your top, you're not going to get a top made of plywood that is this size. So if you're buying the project boards, you think, oh, well, they make those 2 by 4 foot project boards, which is exactly what I used to make my brewery and my yard. However, they're not quite long enough. So the 4 foot side is actually a couple millimeters short. And that's the millimeters you need to make sure the modules kind of connect a little more solid, and there's not so much of a bridge between the two. I've seen enough T-Track modules to know that this isn't a perfect measurement. So part of me wants to just leave it, but there's part of me that I have the wood to fix this and make the ends perfect fit for the track, so the track won't look like it's just dangling out there in the middle of nowhere. It'll also help protect the track, and that's more important to me than just making it look good, because if the track breaks, that kind of messes up the whole scheme of things. So anyway, that part I need to do as well. Track and wiring still has to be nailed down, glued down, whatever. Buildings, I have to work on the buildings. The buildings for the brewery, I pretty much have the buildings. I just need to do the final kind of editing of them, because I'm going to have to create them. One that I'm using, see if I can grab it here. One that I'm using is actually a flat that I made from a kit that I have. Why is that all bent in the view? That is so weird. Anyway, it's actually flat. I don't know why it got bent like that, but it is a flat. It's meant to be a background flat. And I just made it. I used some foam to kind of make bracing, and has corners and stuff like that. But what I wanted to do was actually make this a three-dimensional building. So I actually created and made a logo for it. So this will be the brewery. So you can see what it's going to be called there. Okay. And this piece will go on the side. And what I want to try and do is line up this part here and cut the hole for where the rail cars will go into the building. And then, of course, I'm going to need to finish the roof and have this be a whole big roof. So now I'm thinking, okay, well, now I need roof details. That was one of the things I was looking for at the Altoona show and couldn't find. Or I could find, I just wasn't happy with the price. So all of this is kind of forcing my hand to also break out the 3D printer and get that up and running. So I need to think about doing that too. But anyway, I'm trying to make this full building, so that's something I can work on. I got various other paper models that I need to work on and get going, but the buildings need to are part of the brewery module. And then I've got ideas for other modules, but I really should not get too far ahead of myself. I really need to focus, start doing stuff, getting this stuff done. Sometimes I feel like this is like a painting project, like, painting the room. I hate painting. I do a really good job at it, but I hate it. It's all in the prep. And if you prep correctly, you tape everything, you have stuff on the floor so you don't get the floor dirty, the painting doesn't take that long. That's kind of the way I feel about this. Here I am just yakking about it, and I should be doing it. So, yeah. So for now, this is one hell of a way to run a railroad. I wouldn't have it any other way. Thanks for watching.